Peace, Hotep, and of course, Islam. Want to send high honors to Allah, honors to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. We want to give high honors to the forerunner, Marcus Garvey. We want to send a mighty Islam to all the active Moors, the Els and Beys that are continuing to uplift the Prophet and put him out front so the world could see and know who he is. We want to say honors to the religious Moors for taking the steps to get themselves out of the mind state of Christianity and recognizing the true and divine Prophet Noble Drew Ali as their prophet and singing hymns and praises in his name. We want to give honors to the passive Moors for being passive and allowing the active Moors to see where we're not supposed to be. And of course, last but not least, we want to give the highest honors to the dirty Moors, because the dirty Moors give the active Moors a reason to continue to push this everlasting so-called gospel in the name of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, to make sure that the people know the truth and the divine truth about themselves and their nationality and their birthrights, minus the price tag that dirty Moors like to attach to the people's birthright. So once again, Tuesday, July 30th is Canaanland Moors class. We're going to do our usual, all right? The 2013 Toronto Natural Hair and Beauty Show, Canaanland Moors. We are going to be in attendance. We are going to be vending. If you have any questions or you need to know anything about the Moors, the Moorish movement, court, driver's license fraud, birth certificate fraud, social insurance fraud, mortgage fraud, talk to the Moors. We're going to be in attendance vending at this event, right? This Sunday at the Moor Science Temple of America, 2533A Eglinton Avenue West, we're going to be doing a Skype lecture with Big Brother Jabbar Gaines Ill, called Follow the Prophet, Not the False Prophets, because many people out there get caught up in following these individuals who claim to have some divine authority when they're just some dumb niggers trying to leech off the people's ignorance, right? Today's class is dealing with Servitus, sustainability through ignorance, right? Before we go into class, once again, put it out there, Iron Sheik Moorish MC and One Oak going to be opening for Killer Priest August 10th, 2013 at the Annex Rec Room, 794 Bathurst Street. Advance tickets $15, $30 at the door. So please get in touch, get in contact with Grand Sheik Kudro or the brothers in One Oak. You could look them up on Facebook, One Oak, or you can or Kudro Adwell on Facebook. If you're in Toronto and you want to check out the master lyricist, right? This is one of my Wu-Tang top 5 artists, right? Killer Priest. If you haven't heard anything from Killer Priest, you need to go bump some Killer Priest immediately, right? Because this is going to be archived. So don't worry, you're going to be able to see this, but you need to go check out Killer Priest. And also, he just dropped a new album, The Psychic World of Walter Reed. 2 hours of knowledge of self, All right. So make sure you check out the God, and the show's gonna be crazy. So today, let's start with the definition of Servitus. Latin, slavery, bondage, the state of service, an institution, the conventional law of nations by which one person is subjected to the dominion of another, contrary to natural right. Right? So servitus, slavery, bondage, the state of service, an institution of the conventional law of nations by which one person is subjected to the dominion of another, contrary to natural right. Okay? So the idea is, for this class, is to recognize that the slavery is sustained strictly through people being ignorant, right? People being without knowledge of self. And we know that Noble Drew Ali came and told the Moors that how did Noble Drew Ali, how did the Prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? Right? 101 questionnaire. How did the Prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves. In law, us being ourselves is in propria persona. Right? We've gone over it already. Right? In propria persona, in one's own proper person. So, in order for us to be uplifted, we have to be ourselves. We can't be something that we're not. And too many times we claim that we know ourselves. We claim that we have knowledge of self, and we have, become conscious, and right, when the only way that you really and truly know yourself is to be in propria persona. If you're not in propria persona, if you're not in one's own proper person, you will be subjected to slavery. No matter what you call yourself, no matter what level of degree of knowledge that you have, no matter if you can walk on water or hold a staff and pull your feet up and float, until you become in propria persona, in your own proper person, you will not be recognized as a living, breathing entity. You will continually be subjected. You will continually be recognized as it. And we already know that its don't have any rights. Its can't have any wealth. Its are non-living entities. So its can't get abused, right? There was a picture on Facebook. Cops be like, you're good, get home safe, right? And they have Peter Griffin El Bay in the picture with his fez on, wearing his Moorish vest, and then they have the card, right, the color chart, and obviously that's an officer, or a public servant that's holding the chart. And the chart is saying that if you're a particular hue, you're okay. And if you're opposite of the hue below the red line, you're not okay. And they're putting this stuff out there, right? Because this is something that, remember, this is Family Guy, so it's a show that's, you know, all around the world. Everybody knows Peter Griffin and Brian and the crew, right? Now, why would they use driving? Why would they use, you know, traveling in an automobile, motor vehicle, car, or whatever, for this particular caption, right? Why would they have Peter in a fez and make the race card joke? Because you already know, you know, the joke as far as traveling, driving, etc. is concerned, that, you know, black people are gonna get pulled over first, right? They never get to go home safe. They always have to be pulled over, right? Get the strip search, get the pat down, get out the car, whatever, right? But what are they trying to tell people, right? They're giving the appearance that this is a race issue, when this is not a race issue. This is a status issue, right? And if you look at Peter's face, even Peter's looking like, I'm not classified under this, right? Oh, you know, I'm more. Just let me go about my business. Like, why are you even holding up placards to me, right? And then keep in mind, he doesn't have the fez with the markings on it, so he's not repping masonry, right? He's repping birthright. This is Peter Griffin repping birthright. Okay, so we're gonna take a little excerpt from a very good book, just because they're, you know, touching on the driving thing right here, right? We're gonna touch on something just so we can get a broader perspective of what are they hiding, right? Now, we spoke about impropria persona, okay? So we're gonna break this down so everybody understands the importance of being impropria persona, right? So Peter Griffin is okay, you're good, get home safe, because he's impropria persona, right? Period. Don't even worry about the okay and the not okay and the color game, because color game doesn't apply to Moors, right? Now, this is from Driver's License Fraud that you can get on rvbaypublications.com. Okay? And let me just read this. Senator Henry Berry, 1832, said to the Virginia House of Delegates, speaking about the so-called Negro black colored people, "We have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which the light may enter the slave's mind. If we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. Then they would be then on the level of the beast of the field, and we would be safe." This is a senator, right? Impropria persona. Impropria persona is Old Moorish Latin and is a phrase in jurisprudence, which is the science that treats positive law, which means in one's own proper person. It should stand to reason by the rationale of any thinking natural person, underline, that if one is not being one's own proper self in one's affairs with others, that one cannot be recognized as being legitimate when it comes to right law. Thus, a natural person who maintains such an alien status upon self is outside of the law. Being in one's own proper person in name and nationality is being in one's own proper person. This proper status, quote unquote, which is not for sale, is not a privilege, is not taxable, does not expire, and is the true basis of any valid identity and or identification purposes. Proper person status, natural to political, also has nothing to do with an implied or explicit contract. Governments do not issue, sell, or rent anyone their nationality. These are not commodities. Your nativity/nationality comes by way of nature, through the bloodline and pedigree of your forefathers. The free national pedigree, name, and nationality, with its natural adjoined birthrights and inalienable rights, does not expire by way of some untoward and colorable corporate edict, and are logically not part of the excise tax structure of information as placed upon a corporate privileged driver's license. However, they are the true basis for identification. Thus, a driver's license, if used as a pseudo-credible instrument to imply proof or truth of a natural person's identification, is an intentional perversion of truth and is actual and constructive fraud. However, if and that a license is accepted as a legitimate instrument for true identification, it falsely implies that the holder of that instrument knowingly claims or agrees that he or she is an artificial person or a corporate construct and is paying or is obligated to pay the corporate state for all alleged privileges of existing as an implied corporation. Right? So what this is saying, right, let's go back to our boy Peter, right? So what this is saying is that there's two persons at law. One person is the natural person, one person is the corporate person. In this instance, right, keep in mind, cops be like, you're good, get home safe, right? No showing a license, no showing registration, no showing insurance. Why? Because Peter in this instance is not a corporate person. A corporate person will have to show license, registration, and the likes. Okay? This is why impropria persona is so important, or being in one's own proper person is so important with regard to everything. So when I had my trial, right, they had me for no driver's license, no ownership, no insurance, etc. Right? They threw out everything except no insurance, which proved that, because that's the biggest ticket that you can get, a no insurance ticket, right? But they threw out everything else. Why did they throw out everything else? They threw out no driver's license ticket because I gave them a nationality card, which proved that I was in propria persona, right? They threw out no ownership because, being that I'm in propria persona, the so-called motor vehicle that I was in is my private property. It doesn't belong to the state or the province, even though it has a VIN number on it that's registered to the state. When they pulled me over, they towed the car to my house after threatening to impounded and I'm going to have to pay all these fines and charges and all that. And the only reason that I knew that it was going to be towed to my house is because the tow truck driver came to me and asked me to verify my address or mailing location, right? The place where they're going to be towing the vehicle. And I asked them, I thought they're going to be impounding it. And the tow truck driver told me, no, they're not going to impound it. They're giving you a break, right? Which Negro black colored person out there, everybody knows a Negro black colored person who got their car towed, right? Which Negro black colored person out there do you know got their car towed to their house and not impounded, right? Another example is one of the Moors out here. He got his car impounded, right? The same time that his car got impounded, he got a letter sent to his house from the chief of police demanding him to come and get his private property out of the impound, or they're going to charge him by the day to keep his property there, which means that they're really running a storage facility. And that so-called fee, which is feudal, that they charge, saying that, well, we're going to charge this fee $20, $100 a day or whatever, in order to keep this vehicle that we impounded in the impound. The longer it stays here, the more money you have to pay to get it out. That's a storage charge. That has nothing to do with driving or anything like that, right? So all they said, the brother just had to come down and present whatever documentation he had to prove that that was his private property, and they're going to release his vehicle, car, motor vehicle, automobile, whatever you want to call it. Point being that he was in propria persona, right? Now, being in propria persona, we're going to go back to Brother Peter again, right? Being in propria persona can be demonstrated through symbology, no words, right? Okay? So to prove that, one of the good brothers, one of the Moors that just came into the fold, Brother Clever, brother out in Ottawa, young brother, I think he's 18, 19 or something like that, right? Called me one day, finding out about Moorish knowledge, I heard about you all, and we've been in contact ever since, right? So Islam to the Moor. He sent me some pictures, right, from a book on Haiti. So remember, this is from a book on Haiti, right? And it's a children's book, no different than last week when we showed, Simon, the man who carried the cross for Jesus, right? Children's book. So somebody's out there putting the word out in children's books about these, we'll call them adult matters, being in propria persona, knowing who you are, knowing thyself and all that, right? Because somebody knew that if you put it in a children's book, you would be able to teach the child at a very young age about their nationality and birthrights, because the writers of these books had knowledge of in propria persona, and the fact that majority of the people on the planet, because, well, let's say majority of dark-skinned people, because we've taken on this fraudulent position, right, that it's hard to come to us in word form to let us know something. So majority of people try to show us things in symbology, right? Majority of people, they'll use symbolism to show us the truth about our nationality and birthrights, right? Example, all these movies, right, that's been coming out talking about Moors in the movies, right? Movies are symbology, right? Yes, there is dialogue, right? But the dialogue is attached to the movie, which is symbolic, right? So all these pictures are pictures from this children's book on Haiti, All right. So this is the first picture, right? Okay. Now this is about Haiti, a children's book about Haiti, right? Brother with a fez on. Okay. And keep in mind, you can go Google Haiti flag. You're going to see the Liberty cap at the top of the coconut tree. You can Google Cuba's coat of arms. Cuba has the Liberty cap and the 5-point star, right? Because everybody knows about impropria persona except these so-called Negro black color people, right? Okay. Haiti, the brother in the turban and fezzes. All right. This is a children's book about Haiti, right? So Haitians are Moors, and it's not a secret, because this book had to get published, and majority of times, if you're going out to publish a book, you know, and you're Negro black colored, you know, they're going to give you a hard time to publish your book. But if it does get published and it makes it into the hands of the people, it will be a teaching tool for them, or it's going to be a brainwash tool, right? And I only know because I tried to get books published on the Moors, and these publishers out here, they're not having it. They want you to pay some hundreds of notes for them to print your books, right? And they want you to have barcodes on it and all that, when we could just go to the print store, use Microsoft Publisher, and publish our own books, and we don't need them, right? Haiti, fezzes, children's book on Haiti. Okay. It's not a secret about who the Moors are. The only people in the dark are the people who call themselves black people, which is why you're called black people, and we call ourselves black people because we're in the dark, right? Remember, this is a children's book about Haiti, right? And this should inspire you to go research Toussaint Louverture and recognize, why is he wearing an admiral outfit all the time when they show you pictures of him? Because the Moors were the rulers of the 7 seas, and the Moors were the first sailors. That's why docking your boat is called mooring. Go look it up. And Toussaint Louverture was dressed like an admiral, and an admiral is a shipping or a nautical expert. Fezzes, right? Book on Haiti, children's book, right? There's a good one. There's a brother with even a red fez, right? And the only way the brother found this is because once you start taking impropria persona seriously, all the ancestors and Allah and everybody is going to step in, right? Allah and the ancestors are going to step in to make sure that you get the keys that you need in order to be sure that it's about being impropria persona, right? And it's a documented, bona fide fact that when you get on Moorish nationality, the ancestors are going to step in. If you're serious about Moorish nationality and birthrights, the ancestors are going to step in, right? And show you things, make you look under, these stacks of books. What's that little pamphlet right there? And then you go through these pamphlets, and then it's telling you something about Moorish history. And you're going to be saying to yourself, oh wow, this is, perfect timing that, this happened. How am I finding this book right now when I'm looking at Moorish knowledge? And right, that's how the divine side of the Moorish movement works, right? Now, again, we're speaking about, the ignorance, right, that's plaguing our people. And on the weekend, there was a shooting out here on a streetcar, right? A young man, 18 years old, if I'm not mistaken, was shot by Toronto police, right, on a streetcar because he had a knife or something like that, right? And he made a move toward the officer with a knife and they shot him, right? So this is an article on the shooting, and then we're gonna, not read the whole thing, but you can do your own research with regard to that, right? But we're gonna stick to some points here. Toronto police have confirmed the officer involved in the shooting death of Sami Yatim has been suspended with pay, right? That's common out here. Anytime there's an officer, so-called officer, right, public servant, that violates his oath of office and kills somebody, they always get suspended with pay. All right, before we go into that, let's just read the law enforcement code of ethics so everybody's clear as to what the duty of these so-called public servants are that carry badges and guns and all that, right? This is their obligation, right? Because they signed this code of ethics, right, before they get their job. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve humanity, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional right of all people to liberty, equality, and justice, right? Right? Respect the constitutional right of all people to liberty. So the right to travel, the right to a nationality, the right to free speech, the right to bear arms, all those things are under liberty, right? Keep in mind that liberty is very broad, right? Liberty isn't just, the statue in the bay with the torch. Liberty is broad, right? The constitutional right of all people to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all, and will behave in a manner which brings credit to myself and my agency. I will maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. Honest in thought and deed in both my personal and official life, I will be exemplary in obeying the law and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature, or that is confided to me in my official capacity, will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty. I will never act officiously or permit personal bias, prejudices, political beliefs, animosities, aspirations, or friendships to improperly influence my decisions. I will always remember my shared humanity and will cultivate an attitude of compassion, respect, and empathy toward all peoples. With no compromise for crime and with relentless prosecution of criminals, I will enforce the laws courteously and appropriately, without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. Right? Let's read this part again. With no compromise for crime and with relentless prosecution of criminals, I will enforce the laws courteously and appropriately, without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. I will never engage in acts of bribery, nor will I condone such acts by others. I will cooperate with all legal constituted agencies and their representatives in the pursuit of justice and the maintenance of integrity in law enforcement. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held only so long as I am true to the ethics of the police service. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before all I hold sacred to my chosen profession, law enforcement. Signed, and then officer puts his signature. All right. So Toronto police have confirmed the officer involved in the shooting death of Sami Yatim has been suspended with pay. The officer is a 6-year veteran of the force. Toronto Police Chief Bill Blair addressed the media this morning regarding the fatal police shooting on a downtown streetcar early Sunday morning. The Special Investigations Unit has invoked their mandate to conduct an investigation, and members of the Toronto Police Service will fully cooperate with the SIU in conduct of their investigation, he told the room full of media Monday. Now remember, if you don't know, the Special Investigations Unit is a police unit set up by the police in order to investigate police misconduct. And 99% of the time, police get off when the SIU is involved. So, you know, when you hear that the officer who shot Sami Yatim was, investigated, and the SIU is saying that he didn't do anything wrong or whatever like that, don't get mad, don't go march and picket, go pick up the law enforcement code of ethics and use that to show that he was in violation, right? Because of the SIU's involvement, Blair said he was unable to provide any updates with regards to the investigation, but assured the public that the matter would be fully looked into. Now, all this charade is to take away from the fact that everything was caught on tape and it's on YouTube, right? So go on YouTube and then you Google Sami Yatim, Yatim shooting, right? And you see the whole video of what went down, right? Just for people out there who want to go check it out, right? Like many members of the public, I have viewed the videos of this incident. I am aware of the various serious concerns that the public has, he said. I know that people are seeking answers to what occurred, why it happened, and if anything could be done to prevent the tragic death of this young man. I am also seeking answers to those important questions. On July 27, just after midnight, a man died of a gunshot wound after officers fired at least 9 shots into a streetcar at Dundas Street West near Gray Street, close to Trinity Bellwoods Park. I want to assure all the citizens of Toronto of our unwavering commitment to get the answers that they seek, said Blair. I am prevented by law from disclosing any information with respect to the incident or the investigation. Blair added that he will be launching his own investigation in the matter. So for all the people out there who have issues with the policy enforcers, the police chief is letting you know that he has the power to launch his own investigation. Same thing, you're going to go get your copy of the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics, which is on the International Association of the Chief of Police website, right? So there's an International Association of the Chiefs of Police that every police chief in the world belongs to. And Bill Blair is on the chair of this board right here. And you're going to use this documented evidence, the Code of Ethics of Law Enforcement, anytime something happens to you with regard to these peace officers, right? The SIU has assigned 6 investigators and 2 forensic investigators to investigate the incident. At this time, there is 1 subject officer and 22 witness officers who have been designated. According to a SIU press release, there was an interaction between Yatim and police on the Dundas streetcar. He sustained multiple gunshot wounds, and a conducted energy weapon was also deployed. Right, so this is all in the video. So after they shot this guy 9 times, then they tased him. Right, and just remember, don't forget, right, law enforcement code of ethics, right, with no compromise. I will enforce the laws courteously and appropriately, without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence. Right? Never employing unnecessary force or violence. Not sometimes or whatever, never. So you shoot a guy 9 times and then tase him, that sounds like unnecessary force. Right? He was immediately taken to St. Michael's Hospital, where he died of his injuries. A vigil will be held, and then, they start going into these, which has to stop, these marches and these vigils or whatever that they keep having for these individuals that get assassinated, right, in the public by policy enforcers, who everybody calls police officers, which gives them the power to kick people's ass. And people don't want to get it. No different than calling yourself black puts you in the status of a slave. Calling yourself black puts you in the status of it. And you can't complain when people jump on you and stomp you to death. You can't complain. You can't call racism if you're calling yourself a it. Because it's your fault why people are being so-called racist against you, because you're calling yourself a it. Right? Which leads to Miami Beach, Florida. A leading group of black lawyers on Monday urged Florida's governor to call a special legislative session to repeal the state's Stand Your Ground law after the acquittal of George Zimmerman in the fatal shooting of unarmed teenager Trayvon Martin. Stand your ground must fall, said John Page. Now, we have to ask ourselves this question now. Now, let's say the tables were turned, right? If the tables were turned and Trayvon Martin killed Zimmerman, right, in self-defense, would they still be talking about, he abused his power, right? Would they be talking about, stand your ground, laws must fall and all that, right? Remember, black people have no rights whatsoever that the so-called white man is bound to respect. That's the Dred Scott case. And the Dred Scott case is the most important slave case to ever hit the Supreme Court. And these people are following these leaders, so-called black leaders, right? Getting them to go out there and picket and march and all these type of things, right? With regard to picket and marching, let's touch on this. At any kind of public political demonstration, you may have to deal with the police, especially if there's a large number of protesters and direct action is taking place. The job of the police is to protect corporations, governments, and their property. To do their job properly, police may be required to arrest people and disperse crowds. The police may also try to gather information or evidence of crimes committed by protesters to undermine the movement's credibility and to damage the movement's effectiveness as a political voice. Right? Now go and do your research on all these protests going on, right, with regard to this Trayvon Martin shooting, where they're saying that, people who are protesting are abusing their protesting authority, right? It's all coming down to King Alfred plan, right, which we always warn people about, right? King Alfred, In the event of widespread and continuing and coordinated racial disturbances in the U.S., King Alfred, at the discretion of the President, is to be put into action immediately. Right? For all the protesters, all the people who want to go out and march when somebody gets killed or whatever. This is not march and killing time. This is suing time. If you have a problem with somebody, you sue them. You're not going to go march, picket, have people sign petitions and all that to get rights that were stolen from you or that were ripped off from you, right? And they have a specific plan in place already if anything goes down that is beyond the means of the so-called local law enforcement, right? Below is a timetable for King Alfred, as tentatively suggested by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who recommend that the operation be made over a period of 8 hours. 1. Local police and minority leaders in action to head off the emergency. 2. Countdown to 8 hours begins at the moment the President determines the emergency to be national, coordinated, or of long duration. 3. County police join local police. 4. State police join county and local forces. 5. Federal marshals join state, county, and local forces. 6. National Guards federalized held in readiness. 7. Regular armed forces alerted take up positions. Minority troops divided and detained along with all white sympathizers under guard. Minority troops divided and detained along with all white sympathizers under guard. All minority leaders, national and local, detained. President addresses minority on radio, television, and gives 1 hour to end the emergency. And I always remember the reason why everybody's going to talk that, Barack works for Illuminati and all this, right? Barack Obama is a constitutional lawyer, number one. So he knows about the right to a nationality. That's why he went and signed the UN declarations that all the other presidents refused to sign before him. He signed them because he's a constitutional lawyer, and he's making the way available for the so-called minority who, because he's the president, he has King Alfred plan, and he knows what's about to go down, and he's doing you people a favor, and you keep throwing this man in the fire with the European when Noble Drew Ali prophesied that there is going to be a Asiatic president and a European vice president. Noble Drew Ali prophesied that. So because this prophecy is fulfilling and the people are ignorant of that prophecy being fulfilled by Noble Drew Ali, they fall victim to all the abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them, right? Stand your ground laws, call you refugees and tell you that you can't cross a bridge, and holding you off with guns, right? Killing your innocent children in the street and you having no remedy or recourse. All of this has to do with us not being in propria persona. It might not seem that way, but believe me, I've had enough contacts with people who are ex-military, who even in the military, they know that you can't touch nationals. Even in the military, they know that they are going to come and they're going to question you on your status before they decide to put you in a concentration camp. Before they decide to martial law, they're going to question you on your status. And if you can't present yourself in propria persona, whether through your mouth or through papers or through a nationality card, you're going on the bus. It's Period. Simple. Right? Now, again, King Alfred plan, right? And this is going back to Yatim, right? This executive order of 1969 is to counteract the minority, which includes blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites. Right? When you go check the story of little brother Yatim, Sammy Yatim, you'll find out that he was classified as poor white. So he fell victim to King Alfred plan. Let's forget about the fact that, he was, on the bus, on the streetcar with a knife, right? Remember the prophecy of Noble Drew Ali? Noble Drew Ali told the Moors, don't even carry a pocket knife. Moors are talking about they want to go, exercise their, right to bear arms. And Noble Drew Ali said, don't even carry a pocket knife. Why? Because of these trigger-happy niggers that have guns, right, that are willing to take out their own on a streetcar, on camera, and tase them. That's their own. He's Syrian. They took out their own. If they're going to be doing that to their own, what do you think they have planned for you? Because remember, the European knows. This is why all these so-called Europeans, right? All these so-called Europeans are giving up their U.S. citizenship. Go Google it. Go look at how many of these so-called European entertainers are giving up their U.S. citizenship and returning to their natal countries. It's all online. The list is extensive. High-end people who you know, that you see on TV, and you thinking that they're U.S. citizens when they gave back their U.S. citizenship. Right? Think about how many of these so-called Negroes are proclaiming their nationality. You think Mariah Carey is going to name her child Morocco and not know nothing about nationality? You think Janet Jackson is going to turn Muslim and all the Jacksons are going to turn Muslim and they don't know about nationality? You think Tyson's going to be Muslim, he doesn't know about nationality? You think Amari Stoudemire is going to say he's black Jew and he doesn't know about nationality, he didn't go to Jerusalem and walk through Moor's Gate and all that? Right? Everybody is on nationality and birthrights right now. Right? Everybody's on nationality and birthrights. And if the people continue to play this game that they're the slaves, right? So they need to get some type of recourse, they need to get some type of reparations because, we had this happen to us. Check what happened to them, right? Remember, again, King Alfred plan, always go back in your mind to King Alfred plan. If you don't have King Alfred plan, go to RV Bay Publications and go get it and read it so you can understand the severity of the matter that's going on right now. Right? Moors could talk because we know we got our birthright, so we can say whatever. Right? We could put certain things out there. You know what I mean? How come all these black leaders don't talk like Moors when they're supposed to have the same knowledge that Moors have? Because they're studious. They claim that they know their self, wear dashikis and all that. They know their self. But how come they're not telling you about James Traficant's bankruptcy speech and that the U.S is dissolved? And there's absolutely no office in the U.S that's legitimate or active. All the offices from the president down are dissolved, non-existent. Just like fiat is non-existent, and it only exists because the people, right? Barack Obama is only the president because of the people. So what does that mean? That means that it's really the people. It's not him. It's not Illuminati. It's not New World Order. It's the people. And when the people take their position back as nationals, things would begin to change in favor of the people, because the ancestors have stepped in. The ancestors are now in control of what's going on with people on the planet. Every race, everybody is now subject to the laws of the universe. Nobody can escape right now. Either you're going to be national. Why do you think all these think about this? Think about how many countries in the world turn down bailout packages from their governments. And you can go research it, and you'll find out how many countries said no to bailout packages. But everybody in the North Gate, right, that thinks that the North Gate is the United States, agreed to bailout packages in order to save their house and save their car and save their pension and save their social security, right? And they don't even know that social security is ordering hollow point bullets. Social Security Administration is ordering hollow point bullets. That means Social Insurance Administration has to have an army or a military or something like that. What's SS doing with a military? If all they're supposed to be responsible for is the census and making sure people get their welfare and whatever, why do they have a military? Why do they need bullets for? King Alfred plan, right? People think it's jokes, right? People think more is just flapping the gums or whatever, but you don't even know what's coming, right? Again, Sami Yatim, they shot their own. We can talk about, Sean Bell and Trayvon Martin and all that, right? But when Europeans start seeing their own getting assassinated on streetcars and buses and in the street by their own officers that they actually pay taxes to make sure that those people are out there serving and protecting the community or whatever, it's all fun and games when it's only niggers, when black people getting shot up, he was probably criminal or whatever and all that. When their own starts getting shot up, tables turning, huh? When Malcolm talk about chicken coming home to roost, the chicken's coming home to roost again. And nationality is the only savior. All those people are going to be able to go back to where they come from, right? They'll let them leave too, right? And the people who can't leave are the so-called Negro black colored people who think that they come from Africa, but no African nation ever in the history of quote-unquote black Negro colored people, no African nation, no nation out of the 52, 54, how much ever nations, countries are on the continent, made a claim to the Queen, to the President, or whoever to say, return those people back to their land. None. How come? Because the international community knows about King Alfred Plan. And what do they know? They know that we, so-called Negro black colored people, are a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. So, basically, we'll go all out. We'll go all out if it came down to it. Our problem is that we only go all out against our own, right? For all those black power guys out there who like to post pictures of people posing with guns and talk about black power. And when you ask them, you ever killed a cracker yet? They can't tell you nothing. Let me go to Skinhead and let me ask a Skinhead, how much black people's ass you kicked? Oh yeah, I got this tattoo right here, this black guy ass I kicked. And I got this tattoo right here when I split this guy's head open. And I got this tattoo right here because, this black guy said something to me and I made him bite the curb. But you go ask these black power guys, These guys who everybody says, oh yeah, those are that's the force, and we need, whatever. You go ask them, where's their tats at? For all the Europeans' asses that they kicked, and they can't show you anything. All they could do is show people with pictures showing guns. Right? You go ask the European, yo, how much black people y'all killed? They're gonna show you all the lynching pictures in the world. Yeah, we got this one. We burned this one at the stake. We cut this one's head off. We put this one's head on a pole. You know what I mean? They go down the list, stacks and stacks and stacks of evidence. Right? Our people who claim to know thyself, they have no honor whatsoever. And the world is starting to see that we have no honor. That's why they refuse to help us. And they sit back. You think they care about Trayvon Martin? You think they care? All they care about is milk's running out in the fridge. Don't forget you have to come to my convenience store to come buy something. Oh, rice running out. Don't forget you have to come to my supermarket to go buy something. Oh, you guys need Skittles and iced tea. Don't forget you have to come to our convenience stores to come buy Skittles and iced tea for your protest. Oh, you don't have cardboard? You're going to have to come to our communities, our convenience stores to come buy, because that's all it's are used for, right? And the slave sustainability is based on all these black leaders who we claim to love, that are officers of the court. They're Masons. They got fezzes on in secret, not telling the people about, anything with regard to true history. Straight lying to people. And people follow those people. This is why Brother Jabbar is going to be doing the presentation that he's doing on Sunday. Because it's sickening right now. The level of overseership and selloutness in the conscious community. We're not even talking about dumb people. We're talking about in the conscious community. The amount of sellout people there are in the conscious community right now, right? Everybody knows that we are a formidable enemy because we are bound to the continent by heritage. We are a formidable enemy because we are bound to the continent by heritage, right? The most powerful position is being in your own land. But, being that Negro, black, colored people don't know that this is their own land, they fall victim, right? They definitely fall victim, right? Now, keep in mind, right? These leaders that we hold up so high, you know what I mean, that call themselves black and say that, we're black people and that we have to, fight for civil rights and go out and march and picket and all that stuff. Majority of them are Masons, and all this information that Moors talk about, they have, and they're choosing not to tell the people, right? So the people could stay slaves, and once the people stay slaves, then they could continue to go into people's pockets while they're getting paid as agents from the same people that the people are complaining to the black leaders about that are abusing them. The so-called black people are complaining to their black leaders about, quote-unquote, the white man abusing them. And the black leaders are getting paid from the white man. And the black leaders are getting paid from the minority, because the minority funds them. And when we say black leaders, we're not talking about, Elijah Muhammad and Marcus Garvey, and we're talking about preachers, pastors, entertainment moguls, and all these people in high positions of power that black people assume are in their favor. But, if worse comes to worse, they wouldn't cut them a check out of the $80 million that they have to help them get out the hood. Right? Every single individual in the entertainment industry, we're not even talking, everything. We're just talking, let's just talk music, right? Every individual that has so-called made it in the music industry could cut a check for $1 million and they can get Africa out of debt tomorrow. But they won't do it, right? Because they're agents. And we keep following these people, right? Tell us that we're the slaves and that we came over here on a slave ship, right? Okay. The politically correct media and educational system would have you believe that the evil white man enslaved only the Negro and only whites have responsibility for slavery. This same establishment would have you believe that only Negroes were victims of slavery and only whites owned slaves. The truth is that about 1626, right? So this is early slavery times. White slaves outnumbered blacks in the Chesapeake by more than 20 to 1. White slaves, and what we'll do is we'll correct so we can really understand the severity of the matter, right? European slaves outnumbered subjugated Moors in the Chesapeake by more than 20 to 1. And even by the 1700s, the ratio was still 3 to 1. 6,000 European slaves to 2,000 subjugated Moors. The gap was closing fast, but Europeans were still enslaved in greater numbers than subjugated Moors. In case you didn't catch what's going on, subjugated Moors are black people. It says blacks in this, and we're not even messing with blacks because King Alfred Plan clearly states that, just so we can be clear why we're not going to say blacks to identify our people. One will take note that all the people mentioned in these government plans, blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites, do not include a de jure national name or title. All these words are descriptive chattel brands coined by Europeans as substitute pedigree parentage names and were forced as appellations on the indigenous peoples of the Americas and their own discards. Quote, all people bearing these labels are referred to as it. One common thread is evident. No nationality equals no rights and no human value. No nationality equals no rights and no human value. So we're going to start giving human value to these so-called black slaves by calling them subjugated Moors. Up to 1/2 of all the arrivals in the American colonies were European slaves, and they were America's first slaves. Logically, because slave comes from Slav, and Slav is a European. So subjugated Moors could never be slaves. That's why Moors always speak from the perspective that so-called black slaves or subjugated Moors are prisoners of war, not slaves. Because a slave, by definition, is a European. Right? And during the time of so-called slavery, we weren't Europeans. We might have been Europeans when we ruled Europe, but we're not Europeans in the Americas. We're Aboriginal, indigenous, Moabite Moors. These Europeans were slaves for life, long before subjugated Moors ever were. This slavery was even hereditary. European children born to European slaves were enslaved too. Europeans were auctioned on the block with children sold and separated from their parents and wives sold and separated from their husbands. Free subjugated Moors, property owners, strutted the streets of Northern and Southern America cities while European slaves were worked to death in the sugar mills of Barbados and Jamaica and the plantations of Virginia. The establishment has created a misnomer of indentured servitude to explain away and minimize the fact of European slavery. But bound Europeans in early America called themselves slaves. 9/10 of the European slavery in America was conducted without indentures of any kind, but according to the so-called custom of the country, it was known which was lifetime slavery administered by European slave merchants themselves. In George Sandys' laws for Virginia, Europeans were enslaved forever. Right? So George Sandys' laws.